Hey, I'm Emily Harper, 35, and for 16 years, my dad thought I was just a low-rent pilot, wasting my life in the Air Force. He called my career a joke until his fancy retirement bash at the Ritz-Carlton in Pentagon City last month. I never bragged about my promotions or becoming the youngest major general in Air Force history. I wanted him to be proud of me, not my rank. But at that dinner, in front of 300 guests, Dad mocked me, saying I should head home before I embarrass myself. My face burned, and I was ready to bolt until his boss, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stood up and shouted, "You're Major General Harper?" Dad's wine glass shattered on the floor. If your family's ever looked down on you, hit subscribe and drop a comment with where you're from. This story's gonna shock you, piss you off, and keep you hooked to see Dad face the truth. Stick around. You won't believe what happens next. Alright, you just heard how my dad, Robert Harper, humiliated me at his retirement dinner, calling my Air Force career a dead end in front of 300 big shots. I was ready to walk out, cheeks burning, when General David Thornton dropped the bomb, "You're Major General Harper?" Dad's wine glass hit the floor and the room froze. Let's rewind to how I got here. 16 years of silence that led to that jaw-dropping moment. Growing up in Arlington, Virginia, the Harper house was like a corporate war room. Dad, a hotshot exec at Apex Security Solutions, had our lives mapped out. My brother Michael was destined to be a heart surgeon, he is. My sister Lauren was set for Wall Street, she's a venture capital star. Me? Dad wanted me in a corner office, not a cockpit. The Air Force is for lost souls who need a leash, he'd sneer at dinner. Mom, Margaret, tried to play peacemaker. Robert, the military builds leaders now. He'd just roll his eyes. When I was 17, I ditched Dad's plan for an Apex internship and signed up for the Air Force. His face went redder than a Virginia sunset. "You're throwing away a golden ticket for grunt work," he barked. I stood my ground. I want to earn my own way. That fight set the tone for 16 years. Dad called me our little pilot at every holiday, dismissing my choice while hyping Michael's surgeries and Lauren's deals. It stung, but I kept quiet. I flew F-35s, led squadrons, earned a master's in global strategy, and climbed to Major General by 33, the youngest in Air Force history. Never told Dad. Why? Part of me hoped he'd see my worth without stars on my shoulders. Another part was too pissed to bother. General Thornton mentored me, saw my knack for big-picture strategy. Last year, I briefed the Pentagon on a plan saving $500 million. Still, I stayed silent at home. If you've ever hidden your wins from family who don't get you, you know that ache. Stick with me, this dinner's about to get wilder, and Dad's in for a reckoning you won't want to miss. You just heard how I kept my Air Force career under wraps for 16 years, climbing to Major General while my dad, Robert Harper, dismissed me as a nobody pilot. His wine glass shattering at the Ritz-Carlton when General David Thornton called me out as a two-star general was just the start. That night in Pentagon City was about to get crazier. Let's dive into the moment my dad's world flipped upside down. I'd spent years dodging his jabs, like when he'd smirk at Thanksgiving, calling me our little fly girl while praising Michael's heart surgeries or Lauren's Wall Street wins. It burned, but I swore I'd never flaunt my stars to win his respect. By 33, I was the youngest major general in Air Force history, leading a division and saving the Pentagon $500 million with my Pacific strategy. Dad? He never asked about my work, assuming I was stuck in some dead-end gig. That dinner, though, was his victory lap, 35 years at Apex Security Solutions, rubbing elbows with DC's elite. I showed up in my dress blues, no fancy medals, just Emily, his disappointing daughter. The Ritz ballroom screamed money, crystal chandeliers, tables dripping with $500 centerpieces. Mom, Margaret, gave me a warm hug, whispering, "He's in rare form tonight." Dad was holding court, bourbon in hand, boasting to Apex's CEO, Charles Donovan, about his legacy. When he saw me, his smile tightened. "Here's Emily," he said, voice dripping with pity, still playing pilot in the Air Force. The crowd chuckled awkwardly. My brother Michael, who'd stumbled on my rank at a conference and kept my secret, shot me a look. Lauren just sipped her wine, used to Dad's shade. Then Dad amped it up. Emily's not like the brass we work with, he told Donovan, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. She's still finding her way, probably buzzing around in some trainer jet. Maybe one day she'll join Apex, get a real career. My stomach twisted. 16 years of leading squadrons, briefing the Secretary of Defense, and this? I was a punchline at his big night. You should head out, he added, smirking. This crowd's too high level for you. The room went quiet, 300 pairs of eyes on me. My face felt like it was on fire, but I stood, grabbing my purse, ready to leave with what dignity I had left. Mom grabbed my hand, pleading silently for me to stay. Michael looked ready to deck Dad. I took one step toward the door when General Thornton, a grizzled 6'4" legend, stood up, his voice booming. Hold up. Emily Harper? Major General Harper from Strategic Command. The air sucked out of the room. Dad froze, his bourbon halfway to his lips. You're the one who briefed us on Pacific readiness last month, right? Thornton pressed, eyes wide. I nodded, heart pounding. Folks, this nobody pilot is a 2-star general, youngest in Air Force history. She saved the Pentagon $500 million and boosted efficiency by 30%. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Donovan's jaw dropped. Dad's glass slipped, splashing bourbon on his $3,000 suit. If you've ever been torn down by someone you love, you know this moment: shock, vindication, and a whole lot of pain. Hang tight, because this night's about to explode, and Dad's got some soul-searching coming. You won't want to miss it. So, there I was, 1 foot out the door at Dad's swanky retirement dinner, his words head out, this crowd's too high level ringing in my ears like a bad hangover. The Ritz-Carlton Ballroom in Pentagon City was dead silent, 300 pairs of eyes boring into me after he'd called my Air Force career a joke. Then General David Thornton, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, flipped the script, outing me as Major General Harper, the youngest 2-star in Air Force history. Dad's bourbon-soaked suit and the gasps from DC's elite were just the beginning. That night was about to crack open like a thunderbolt. Let's back up to why I was even there, ready to eat crow in my dress blues. For 16 years, I'd kept my career under lock and key. Dad, Robert Harper, Apex Security Solutions big dog, thought I was buzzing around in some rinky-dink trainer jet, not commanding divisions. He'd mapped out my life for a corner office, not a cockpit. Meanwhile, I was flying F-35s, earning a master's in global strategy, and saving the Pentagon $500 million with my Pacific plan. At 33, I made Major General, first woman to do it that young. Never told Dad. His Thanksgiving jabs, calling me fly girl while hyping Michael's scalpel skills or Lauren's Wall Street coups, cut deep. I wanted his pride, not his pity, without flashing my stars. That dinner was Dad's victory lap, 35 years at Apex, schmoozing with senators and generals. I almost bailed, but Mom's call, it's his big night, we need you, guilt me into showing. Big mistake. Dad was in full swagger, bourbon in one hand, ego in the other, when he spotted me. Here's Emily, he told CEO Charles Donovan, voice thick with condescension, still playing pilot. I forced a smile, but he didn't stop. She's no brass like we deal with, he broadcasted to the room. Probably still in basic training mode. Apex could give her a real shot someday. The crowd's pitying laughs hit like shrapnel. My brother Michael, who knew my rank but kept mum, clenched his jaw. Lauren just swirled her Chardonnay, unfazed by Dad's routine. Then came the knockout punch. This room's for deal makers, Dad said, smirking. Why don't you head home before you're out of your depth? My chest tightened, 16 years of work reduced to a cheap shot. I stood, purse in hand, ready to ghost, when Thornton's voice boomed, Major General Harper? Dad's face went white as the tablecloths. You led the Pacific overhaul, right? Saved $500 million and juiced efficiency by 30%. The room erupted, gasps, whispers, forks clattering. Donovan choked on his steak. Dad's glass was already history, bourbon pooling at his feet. Thornton wasn't done. "This woman's a strategic beast," he told the crowd. "Her plans were tighter than Fort Knox in the Pacific." "Robert, you never said your daughter was that Harper." Dad stammered, his usual boardroom polish gone. I stood frozen, caught between vindication and dread. I'd hidden my stars to avoid this, being a trophy for Dad to claim. Now every eye was on me, and Dad looked like he'd been sucker punched. Mom's hand found mine, her eyes wet. Michael whispered, "You okay, General?" I wasn't. This was the moment I'd dodged for years, and it hurt as much as it felt right. If you've ever had your worth trampled by family, you feel this: anger, heartbreak, and a spark of hell yeah. But this dinner's not over. Dad's got a mirror to face, and I'm about to take the mic. Stick around. You're gonna want to see how this shakes out. You just saw my dad, Robert Harper, get floored when General David Thornton outed me as Major General Harper at his ritzy retirement dinner. His bourbon-soaked suit and the stunned silence of 300 DC elites were only half the story. After Dad's brutal jab, dismissing my Air Force career as a low-rent gig and telling me to head home before I embarrass myself, Thornton's bombshell that I was the youngest two-star general in Air Force history, saving the Pentagon $500 million, turned the Ritz-Carlton ballroom into a pressure cooker. Dad's world was unraveling, and I was caught in the crossfire of vindication and pain. But this night was about to take another sharp turn. Let's rewind to why that moment hit so hard. For 16 years, I'd zipped my lips about my career. Dad, Apex Security Solutions top dog, saw my Air Force choice as a rebellion, not a calling. He'd sneer at Christmas, calling me fly girl while toasting Michael's heart surgeries or Lauren's venture capital wins. I flew F-35s, led squadrons, earned a master's in global strategy, and hit Major General at 33, first woman to do it that young. Never told Dad. His jabs hurt, but I wanted his respect for me, not my rank. That dinner was his crowning moment. 35 years at Apex, whining and dining with senators and brass. I showed up in dress blues, no medals, just Emily, the daughter he pitted. When Dad mocked me to CEO Charles Donovan, Emily's no brass, probably still in trainer jets, and suggested I leave, my heart sank. 16 years of commanding divisions, briefing the Pentagon, reduced to a laugh line. I was halfway to the door, face burning, when Thornton's voice stopped me cold. "Major General Harper? The Pacific overhaul genius." The room gasped. Dad's bourbon glass was toast. Thornton laid it on thick. "She's a strategic beast, Robert. Her plans were rock solid in the Pacific." "You never mentioned this Harper." Dad's stammering was drowned out by whispers. Donovan's jaw was on the floor. Mom squeezed my hand, eyes glistening. "Michael, my secret keeper brother," muttered. "Nailed it, General." But the shock wasn't over. Thornton turned to the crowd, his voice like thunder. "This woman's not just a general, she's rewriting how we defend this country. Her strategies saved lives and billions." "Robert, how'd you keep this quiet?" The crowd buzzed, some clapping, others glaring at Dad. He looked like he'd been hit by a freight train, his usual boardroom swagger gone. I stood there, torn. Part of me felt the sweet sting of justice, 16 years of being dismissed, finally exposed. But another part ached. I didn't want Dad's respect this way, paraded like a trophy. I'd hidden my stars to prove my worth, not to shame him. Then Donovan, recovering, stood up. "Emily, please stay. We had no idea." "Your father never," he trailed off, shooting Dad a look. The crowd murmured, some whispering about Apex's contracts tied to my strategies. A senator nearby muttered, "She's the one who briefed us last month?" The weight of 300 stares pinned me. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, I was reeling. This was the reckoning I'd avoided. Mom's grip tightened, like she knew. Lauren, usually cool as ice, looked shell-shocked. Michael leaned in. You gotta say something, Thornton sealed it. Major General, would you address us? This room needs to hear from you. My stomach dropped. Speaking wasn't on my bingo card, but those eyes, generals, CEOs, young staffers who might have faced their own family battles, demanded it. If you've ever had to stand tall after being torn down, you know this mix of dread and fire. The mic was waiting, and so was Dad's reaction. Hang on, this night's about to get raw, and I'm stepping into the spotlight. You don't want to miss what's next. Okay, you just saw the Ritz-Carlton Ballroom in Pentagon City explode when General David Thornton outed me as Major General Harper, the youngest two-star in Air Force history, right after Dad's brutal takedown of my career. His bourbon glass was history, and 300 DC heavyweights were gobsmacked. Dad, Robert Harper, had called me a nobody pilot, told me to bail before I embarrassed myself, only to eat his words when Thornton revealed I'd saved the Pentagon $500 million. Now, with the crowd buzzing and Thornton's challenge, Major General, address us. I was staring down a mic, 16 years of silence crashing around me. This was my moment to set the record straight, and Dad's reaction was gonna be everything. Let's rewind to why I was shaking inside. For 16 years, I'd buried my Air Force wins 35 missions, a master's in global strategy, Major General at 33, because Dad's jabs, like Fly Girl at Christmas, cut deeper than I'd admit. I wanted his pride without flashing my stars. That night, his Apex retirement bash was his Super Bowl, and I was the daughter he pitted. His mockery, Emily's no brass, go home, had me halfway out the door when Thornton flipped the script. Now, the room's eyes were on me, generals, CEOs, staffers who knew the sting of being underestimated. Mom's grip on my hand said, "You've got this." Michael, my brother who'd kept my secret, nodded. Even Lauren, usually ice-cold, looked rattled. I stepped to the mic, heart pounding like a jet engine. "Good evening," I started, voice steadier than I felt. "This isn't how I pictured tonight going." A few chuckles broke the tension. "I'm Emily Harper, Robert's daughter, and yeah, a Major General in the Air Force." The room leaned in. "First, let's raise a glass to my dad, 35 years at Apex, building a legacy that's kept our nation strong." I glanced at Dad, his face a mix of shock and something softer. "He's a strategic genius, and I'm proud to call him Dad." The crowd clapped, but I wasn't here to sugarcoat. Growing up, Dad had big plans, Michael as a heart surgeon, Lauren ruling Wall Street, me in a boardroom. I chose the Air Force at 18, not to rebel, but to serve. To protect what we love. My voice caught. Dad saw it as a detour. For 16 years, he called me Fly Girl, never asking about my work. That hurt. The room was dead quiet. But I messed up too. I hid my promotions, my strategies, my stars, hoping he'd see me first. Pride and pain kept me silent. I turned to the crowd. As a Major General, I lead thousands, shape global defense, save billions. But leadership isn't just strategy, it's owning your mistakes. Dad, I'm sorry I shut you out. I wanted your respect, not just for my rank, but for my choice to serve. Dad's eyes glistened, a first. We both built walls, but tonight, maybe we start tearing them down. I faced the room. To anyone here who's felt unseen by family, by bosses, your path matters. Speak your truth, even when it's hard. The crowd erupted, applause thundering. Dad stood, slow and deliberate, and holy cow, snapped a salute. My dad, the corporate king, saluting me. I returned it, throat tight. "We've got work to do, Dad," I said softly, stepping down. He nodded, voice rough. "Damn right, General." Mom wiped tears. Michael fist bumped me. Lauren mouthed, "Wow." The room was still buzzing, senators whispering, staffers clapping, Thornton grinning like a proud uncle. If you've ever fought to be seen for who you are, this hits home, anger, hope, and a spark of healing. But we're not done. Dad and I have a heart-to-heart coming, and it's gonna change everything. Stick around, you're gonna want to hear this. All right, You just witnessed the Ritz-Carlton Ballroom in Pentagon City go wild when I, Emily Harper, took the mic after General David Thornton blew the lid off my secret. I'm the youngest Major General in Air Force history. Dad, Robert Harper, had just humiliated me, calling my 16-year Air Force career a dead end, and telling me to head home before I embarrass myself in front of 300 DC elites. Thornton's reveal that I'd saved the Pentagon $500 million left Dad's bourbon glass in shards and his ego in tatters. My speech, owning my silence and calling for a bridge with Dad, ended with him saluting me, a corporate titan honoring his fly girl daughter. The crowd's applause was deafening, but the real test was coming, a one-on-one with Dad where 16 years of walls might finally start crumbling. Let's backtrack to why that salute hit like a missile. For 16 years, I'd buried my wins, 35 missions, a master's in global strategy, Major General at 33 because Dad's jabs, like Fly Girl at Thanksgiving, stung too much. I wanted his respect for my choice to serve, not my stars. His Apex retirement bash was his moment to shine, and I was the daughter he pitied. His public takedown, Emily's no brass, go home, had me ready to bolt until Thornton's bombshell flipped the night. My speech laid it bare. Dad's dismissal hurt, but my silence built walls too. His salute was a crack in the armor, but we weren't done. As the applause faded, the crowd swarmed, senators, generals, staffers, all buzzing about my Pacific strategy. Mom, Margaret, hugged me, whispering, "You were incredible, Em." Michael, my brother who'd kept my rank hush-hush, grinned. "That's my general." Lauren, usually stone cold, said I had no idea. Dad stood off to the side, face unreadable, like a CEO who'd just lost a billion-dollar deal. CEO Charles Donovan approached, voice low, "Emily, we need to talk about Apex collaborating with your team." I nodded, but my eyes were on Dad. Thornton clapped my shoulder. "You've got guts, Harper." Then Mom pulled me aside. "Your father wants a word. Alone." "He's in Donovan's office." My stomach knotted. 16 years of tension, and now this? I'd faced Pentagon briefings, but this felt like walking into a dogfight unarmed. I nodded, steeling myself, and headed down the hall. Dad was by the window, staring at the Pentagon's glow, his tie loosened like he'd run a marathon. He turned, and for the first time, I saw something new in his eyes, not pity, not anger, but a flicker of awe. "Major General," he said, testing the words like they were foreign. 2 stars at 33. Youngest ever. I nodded, waiting. He ran a hand through his gray hair. "Why the hell didn't you tell me, Em?" His voice cracked, not with rage, but hurt. I took a breath, choosing honesty. Would it have mattered, Dad? You decided at 18 I was wasting my life. Every holiday, every call, fly girl, no brass, come to Apex. I didn't want your respect for my rank. I wanted it for me. He flinched, like I'd landed a punch. "I thought you were stuck, spinning your wheels in some backwater base. I wanted more for you. Boardrooms, power, like me." I cut in, sharper than intended. "I have power, Dad. I command thousands, shape global defense, brief the president. My boardroom's 30,000 feet up, and it's bigger than yours." Silence hung heavy. He sank into a chair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen. "I screwed up," he said finally, voice rough. "I saw the Air Force through my lens, grunts, not leaders. I never asked what you did, never thought you'd outrank every officer I've met." He met my eyes. "I'm proud, Em. Not just of the stars, but you, guts, brains, all of it." My throat tightened. 16 years, and those words were gold. "I'm sorry too," I said. "I hid my life to prove a point. That was pride, not strength." He nodded, a ghost of a smile. "You got my stubborn streak." I laughed, tension easing. "And your strategy brain. Some of my plans? Inspired by your Apex talks at dinner growing up." His eyes widened. "No kidding." We stood there, not fixed, but starting. "We talk now," he said. "No more secrets." I agreed. Deal, but you're buying the coffee. If you've ever longed for a parent to see you, this moment's raw pain, hope, a new beginning. But the night's not over. The crowd's waiting, and Dad's got one more surprise. Stay tuned. This gets better. You just heard my heart-to-heart with Dad, Robert Harper, in the CEO's office at his retirement dinner, where he finally admitted he was proud of me, Major General Emily Harper, not just for my Air Force stars, but for who I am. His bourbon-soaked suit and shattered ego from General David Thornton's reveal that I'd saved the Pentagon $500 million were still fresh. My speech at the Ritz-Carlton in Pentagon City, owning my 16 years of silence and his fly girl jabs, had sparked a salute from Dad, a corporate kingpin. That raw moment in the office cracked open a door, but the night wasn't done shaking us up. Back in the ballroom, the 300 DC elites were still buzzing from my speech. I stepped out of Donovan's office, Dad trailing behind, and the crowd's energy hit like a jet blast. Charles Donovan, Apex's CEO, cornered me first. Emily, your Pacific strategy? We've been executing it at Apex, not knowing it was you. His voice was pure shock. A young colonel, maybe 30, approached, eyes wide. Ma'am, you're why I stayed in the Air Force, women like you paving the way. My throat caught. A senator I'd briefed last month chimed in. Harper, your plan's a game changer. Drinks on me next time. The applause felt surreal, like I'd stepped out of Dad's shadow into a spotlight I'd avoided for years. Dad watched from a few feet away, his usual boardroom swagger replaced by something quieter. He saw generals, CEOs, and staffers, people he'd spent 35 years impressing, crowd around me. Not his heart-surgeon son, Michael, or Wall Street queen, Lauren, but his nobody pilot daughter. Mom, Margaret sidled up, whispering, he's seeing you now, Em. Michael grinned. Told you they'd lose it, General. Lauren, still processing, said, you're a freaking rock star. For 16 years, I'd hidden my F, 35 missions, my masters, my 2 stars, because Dad's dismissal hurt too much. Now, his colleagues were rewriting his narrative right in front of him. A staffer, barely 25, pulled me aside. My dad thinks my job's a waste too. How do you keep going? Her voice trembled, and I saw myself at 18, defying Dad's apex dreams. You prove it to yourself first, I told her. The rest follows. She nodded, eyes bright. Dad overheard, his face unreadable but softer. Thornton clapped my shoulder. Harper, you're a legend. Dad's eyes met mine, and I saw it, pride, not for my rank, but for the leader I'd become. If you've ever felt invisible to those you love, you know this mix of vindication and hope. The night's not over. Dad's got one more move, and it's a game changer. Stay locked in, you're gonna love what's next. You just saw the Ritz-Carlton ballroom in Pentagon City erupt as DC's elites swarmed me, Major General Emily Harper, after my speech and Dad's heartfelt admission of pride in the CEO's office. His bourbon-soaked suit and shattered ego from General David Thornton's reveal that I'd saved the Pentagon $500 million still lingered. For 16 years, Dad, Robert Harper, had dismissed my Air Force career, calling me fly girl while praising Michael's surgeries and Lauren's Wall Street wins. My speech, owning my silence and his jabs, sparked a salute from him, a corporate titan finally seeing his daughter. The crowd's respect generals, senators, staffers rewrote Dad's narrative, but now, 3 months later, let's catch up on how our stories unfolded. Back in Arlington, Virginia, Sunday dinners are back, first time since I was 18 and ditched Dad's apex dreams for the Air Force. The Harper house smells of Mom's pot roast, and Dad's not just the boardroom king anymore. He's grilling me about 35 missions, my Pentagon briefings, even my master's in global strategy. How do you manage 10,000 airmen? He asked last week, scribbling notes like I'm his consultant. Mom, Margaret, no longer plays peacemaker. She just beams when we geek out over defense tactics. Michael, my heart-surgeon brother, ribs me. General, you stealing my thunder? Lauren, the venture capital shark, confessed, I binged articles on your Pacific plan. Total badass move. Dad's changed most. He got tapped for an Air Force advisory board. My recommendation to Thornton. Over backyard burgers, he was floored. You put my name up, M? He asked, voice catching. Your strategic brain's gold, Dad, I said. We need you in the game. He nodded, eyes misty, a far cry from the guy who called my career a detour. One night, he dug out an old Apex report from my teen years, pages worn from his dinner table rants about big-picture thinking. This shaped your strategies? He asked, soft. Your fire's in me, Dad, I said. His smile wasn't his usual boardroom polish. It was real, like we'd finally clicked. We're not perfect. 16 years of hurt, his fly girl, jabs, my stubborn silence. Don't vanish overnight. But we're talking now, no secrets. Weekly calls, coffee runs, even a Pentagon tour I gave him last month. Your office outranks mine, he joked, eyeing my desk. Mom's mantle holds a new photo. Me in dress blues, Dad beside me, both grinning post-dinner, like we'd won a war together. It's our bridge, built one Sunday at a time. If you've ever felt your family didn't get you, this hits hard, shock and anger melting into hope. We're proof you can rewrite the story. Drop a comment. Ever had a family moment flip your world? Hit subscribe, share this if it moved you. One final lesson's coming, and it's gonna light a fire under you to own your path. You just saw how Sunday dinners in Arlington have become our family's new battleground for connection, with Dad, Robert Harper, finally digging into my Air Force world after 16 years of calling me Fly Girl. His pride, sparked by General Thornton's bombshell at the Ritz-Carlton, that I'm Major General Emily Harper, youngest in Air Force history, shifted our story. From his bourbon-soaked suit to our raw office talk, we're building a bridge. Now, here's the lesson that ties it all together. 16 years of Dad's jabs and my silence taught me something big. You don't need permission to shine. I hid my stars, 35 missions, Pentagon briefings, $500 million saved, hoping Dad would see me without them. His dismissal stung, but my biggest mistake was waiting for his nod. Leadership, whether in a cockpit or a family, means owning your truth, even when it's messy. Speak up, not to prove them wrong, but to honor your path. If you're hiding your wins because someone family, friends, doesn't get it, stop. Share your story. It's how you build bridges, not walls. So, take this home. Call that person who doesn't see you. Tell them what you're building, big or small. Maybe it's a job, a dream, a hustle. You're the general of your life. Fight for it. If this hit you, shock, anger, hope, drop your story below. Ever felt unseen? Hit subscribe, share this, and let's keep talking. Your path's worth it.